Hey guys, this is D&D, aka Dark Frozen Depths, and this is a quick little video about enhancing your weapons now that we got final break limits and all that. This is something that's very important to pay attention to. Like, the basic thing is that you multiply the skill level times the amount, like, if you take the skill level, that's the amount of R weapons you would need. But there's a multiplier that's dependent on if it's R rarity or SSR. What I mean is, say you have a SR that's skill level 17, then it takes 17 R weapons in order to get that to the next level. However, with SSR at that same level, it's double that amount. With R weapons at that same level, it's half. So, for instance, skill level 10 R, you only need 5 R weapons. Skill level 10 SSR, you need 20 R weapons. That's just a basic thing for that. And as you can see right there, if you're just not enhancing any R weapons or anything like that, then you're going to need all 20 of your slots filled up to get an SSR to skill level 11. And that's where you're going to need to start using other stuff and everything about that. But what they basically go by on this is where they give everything point value. So it's like, you get R weapons are worth like 10 points, and then SR is worth like 35, SSR is worth 350, and so on and so forth. To be quite honest, I find it simpler to make it like this. An SSR is worth 3.5 times an R weapon. And an SR is 3.5 times an R weapon. And then an SSR is 35 times an R weapon. And then on top of that, they have the Grails too. I found out that the Grails are worth 400, not 500. So, I thought they were worth 50, but they're worth 40. But you don't need a Grail. Unless somehow in an event they'll give you one, or you might get a Grail with some sort of gacha deal. Don't go out of your way to get the Grail, because it takes Dragonic Eye Shards and you can better save your resources. Now, the SR Grails, we tend to get a lot of them from the Union raids. That's why you should do that. I've got a couple of myself that I just haven't even used yet. And the R Grails, you can get them from plenty of events, honestly. I think even the normal raid ones feed them to you, but I'm not fully sure on that one. But you can get them from any Advent event that has a Ragnarok, I know that, but you don't have to go out of your way to get the Grails. Union events feed these like candy, so you'll easily get a lot there. But when it comes to the Grails, R Grail is double the R weapon. SR Grail is worth 5 times the R weapons. So, that's something to pay attention to. Now, when it comes to enhancing skill levels, you're going to need a lot. And I do mean a lot. If you final break a weapon, and this is only for SSR weapons too, so keep that in mind. But if you final break it, it can go up from skill level 20 to skill level 30. And a requirement to even final break it is to get it to skill level 20 anyway, so you'll automatically benefit from 2 abilities. 3 if they technically fuse them together. There's a lot of different stuff that happens later down the line. Like, I've seen an Assault Defender get fused together and then they add a 3rd ability. But the thing with this is that it starts getting extremely expensive, and that's where you might actually consider using SR weapons, and even SSR weapons, a lot more. So, the biggest thing with that is that for skill level 29, you need 58 R weapons worth of materials, or 580 points as it say here. Like, you can use the points thing if you find it easier, but I found it easier just to remember how many weapons per level. It's like, okay, skill level 29, double that. That's how many R weapons worth of materials you need. So if you know what the other ones are, there you go. Now, you can also increase their values, because if an R weapon is skill level 4, then it's worth 4 R weapons. If an SSR is skill level 6, then it's worth 6 SSR weapons. So it's a multiplier on the top of a multiplier. That's where this comes in, where they have an efficiency rating. There's honestly, like, when it comes to efficiency, you shouldn't really need to raise your R weapons into other ones unless you have nothing else. In which case, at most, you'll probably get to like skill level 3-ish, and then you'll be good to go. It'll still break even when you fuse 5 of them. I mean, get it to skill level 5, so yeah. But you only really need like maybe 3 of them. You need a base copy and then you enhance it twice. But when it comes to SR and above, there's an efficiency level where it's like, okay, you'll start losing more than you put in. And that's what these point values mean. So it's like saying, okay, you got a skill level 4 SR, and you're trying to use it as a material. So, using enough R weapons in order to try and push it to skill level 5 is a waste. Because you're getting less of a EXP increase than what you put in. So, that said, that's where it's starting to falter off. And you can see it for each of these. It's like, you'll generally get, like, if you're using it as an enhancement material, you'll generally get it to, like, maybe skill level 4, skill level 5, and then you'll start losing out. However, SSR, it has that too. And this says 5 or 6. This is where I think they actually got that wrong, because when it comes to how much an SSR weapon is worth and you're using it for an enhancement material, you only need to level it once and only once, and it guarantees any level up. This is why I said the Grail is useless, because you don't need the Grail when the weapon can do it on its own. This is why getting the SSR weapon you don't need might actually help out. That's why I do that in these events, especially since they're starting to get really cheap. Because if you don't plan on using a weapon, you might want to hold on to it for enhancement materials, especially when it comes to the final break weapons. They really need these. I fed like 5 SSR weapons to get that that Phoenix bow maxed out. But that's the whole thing. It says you get more payback right here when it's at like 5 or 6. And I don't know if there's an update where you can get more than 1 skill level increase later down the line. But as long as we're getting only 1 increase per enhancement, you only need to go skill level 2 with the SSR weapons. It's a waste after that. Because you're already guaranteed at skill level 2. So if you plan on using the SSR weapon as an enhancement fodder, which you should at very high skill levels, you don't need more than 1. Especially with these values too. Because if you look at this value table, an SSR is worth 350 points basically. That means from skill level 18 onward, you don't have to enhance it. You'll have to enhance it once. But skill level 17 and below, it doesn't matter what you do. You feed an SSR into a weapon, it's guaranteed to go up a skill level. But for the other levels from 18 onwards, then you need to enhance it at least once. And then I wouldn't even bother enhancing it for skill level 18 and maybe 19 because you still got a very high chance. It's like 90-something% just about. And then when you start getting a few more levels, you might want to toss a couple R weapons in with it. But when you start going into max breaks and stuff, like final weapon breaks, that's when you might want to start feeding it into it. Because remember, it's doubled its level. So why do you need to get it to skill level 5 when skill level 2 makes it worth 700? Nothing even gets up to 600 in value. So that's why I'm getting that with that one. But yeah, this video is more or less to try and show optimal ways in order to enhance these things. Because that's really one thing they overlooked on here. Unless somehow, some way, they altered it in the future update where you get 5 levels. It's like, I don't know if we get that. That's the one thing. I'd have to double check this and actually see a little bit more about it. But as far as I've seen, you only get 1 level per enhancement. If they change that later down the line, then that really helps out, because then you can get multiple. And that's where you can start enhancing it quite a bit and start getting a lot of experience out of it. But this thing, I'm also going to post in the comments as well, because this shows off a lot of the different skill effects we'll get to, including for some of for some of the relic weapons, which you should have at this point if you've been playing for a long time. I've got 2 myself, all fused into each other. I haven't even really updated that light axe for a while. But, yeah, this has a lot of good info. And it's not fully complete, but it does give us a nice little boost about it. Like, for example, you only really need 5 stinger weapons and max, well, not maximum, but if you can somehow get stinger to 100%, you're guaranteed it. That can really spike your damage. Because you do get an increase of damage off of it. So, that's something else to look into as well. Especially since some weapons do have a final break that come with stinger. I know some of the SSR weapons that used to be in a gacha, but now you gotta get Dragonic Eye Shards for, they can go up to skill level 30, and stinger gets 20% at skill level 20. So, it's pretty beast, actually. So, that said, when you happen to get 100% on stinger, it can really help you out on top of the assault. It's actually pretty good if you can get it to high values. If not, then you may or may not want to hold. It depends. It really depends, because it's still a damage increase. It's just not optimal damage increase in some situations. Assault definitely is the best one to aim for. But yeah, Assault, Defender, those are standard stuff. When you start getting into Pride and everything, that's where it starts getting a little bit picky because of the fact that they're situational. But if you look over this, I've even done another video on a lot of these skill effects too. I probably have to dig it up if I'm going to post it in the comments, but that's the whole thing with all that. There's a lot of different stuff, and we've gotten introduced to quite a bit now. I know as far as I'm concerned, we've gotten introduced to Defender, we've gotten introduced to Assault. Those have been there since the beginning. We got Pride, we got Rush. This is called Barrage, actually. We do have that now. Stinger, Exceed, and Ascension. We've gotten introduced to all of those. We're going to eventually get Vigorous, Elaborate, and other stuff. So that said, there's quite a bit to really look into. But that's enough of me talking about this. You can experiment yourself with some weapon combinations. You might find something very interesting. Like, say you get Stinger with Rush and Barrage and also Assault. You'll probably crank out quite a bit of damage off of that too, depending on the setup. And you might even fill up your gauge a lot faster too, because there's still the issue of Rush being compared to whether or not it actually stops triple attack. But like I said, it depends on your setup. You more or less need to experiment with these anyways, now that we're starting to get a lot of double combination stuff anyways. But definitely have as much Assault as you can get. That's the basic one. You will need a couple of Defenders in there too. Some content will rip a new one in you if you don't. But anyways, that's all for this video. Next one is definitely going to be the Dark R challenge I'm going to do for the crossover event, but it's pathetically easy, so I don't expect too much trouble with it. But anyways, that's all for now, guys. Take care.